Hello! So this weekend I went home to visit my mum and younger brothers, and they were watching on Netflix Sex Education, which had back in January just released its second season. And before I knew it, we watched the whole thing. So I thought I would just kind of record some thoughts and observations and things that I really liked about the series, and see if perhaps you'll agree with me, perhaps you won't. First of all, from a filmmaking perspective, this series is incredible for its cinematography, for its locations, for its direction, for its writing, for its diversity as a cast, and I'll talk about all of these things in more detail throughout this video. But overall, this is a real fresh approach to a TV series, I feel, and that's one of the things that Netflix is really bringing to the table that I don't necessarily feel like the major studios would have done. If this script had landed on the wrong desk, I feel like it would have been made a lot safer, if that makes sense. Apparently the second series has already had 40 million viewers. That clearly means a lot to Netflix, who have already announced the third season. In order to compete with all of these services that are trying to get into our wallets, Netflix is producing some real original stuff, and I think this series is one of those where it really pays off. Anyway, ignoring all of the business stuff and coming back to the actual series, the actual finished piece that we got to watch, where to begin? Lauren Evans was the casting director, I guess, for this series, and what an incredible job she did, along with all of the team, to find the right people to play these characters. It is deeply refreshing to see such a diverse cast who are all incredibly talented, and there's very few, I can't at the moment think of any performances that slip. And I also think that we end up with a series that's got very few sort of two-dimensional characters. They all get kind of explored with their own right amount of screen time and their own subplots, and it makes for a very good, relatable program for all of the audience. But of course, I'm not just here to suck up to Netflix and praise the cast. A lot goes into this. One of the things my mum and I kind of laughed at was the production design, because the mum uses a MacBook, but all the TVs are from the 80s, and then something's going on with the cars, where the cars seem to be in mint condition from sort of, the late 90s, early 90s to 80s. And I guess it can only be explained that, like, the school, for example, is kind of half a British school, half an American high school. Same with a lot of the clothing and everything. It's hard to kind of tell, with the exception of the MacBook, what year this is set in. And I think that's a deliberate creative choice, because they're trying to argue with this series that all of these problems and fears and worries that young people go throughout school are universal. Kids worried about this stuff in the 80s, in the 90s, and now. Kids probably worried about this stuff 100 years ago. And again, what happens in British schools is the same as what happens in American schools and Australian schools and Canadian schools and Spanish schools. So to kind of finish my point, I found the production design weird, but it worked. Setting it in the countryside, it does itself as well fight stereotypes. Like, I feel like if this had been set in London or in an inner city or California, it'd be like, oh, okay, this is what, inner city schools are like. No, every school is like this. Every school has students like this. And so, besides just looking beautiful, there were some stunning choices for locations there. Another kind of observation was that with any sort of Hollywood production or, dramatized media, there will always be an element of, I guess, exaggeration or entertainment value. And in that case, I found a lot of things to be kind of extreme. Like, the bullying was extreme, the sex was extreme, the relationships were extreme. Just the drama was all just kind of turned up higher. And I guess that probably reflects how kids feel, though. That's probably what it means to be in school. Every success and failure is the end of the world. They captured that in the writing. Saying that, I did struggle with some of the characters. For example, Ruby and Anwar. They're just kind of mean, and maybe I missed something in the series. Ruby has her moments as well, where I think she mentions that her dad has MS, and that's clearly been hard for her. But I don't think that justifies such a shitty personality. And that's the same with Anwar. I don't quite understand why he's such a knob. And I guess the same point would apply to Mr. Groff. I don't know, have I missed something again? There's very little reason to feel sympathy for him other than him being a very serious career man. And I guess in the third series there needs to be some explanation to why he just was really not that bothered about his wife, not that loving to his son. It is also quite funny watching it and seeing how quite a few of the cast have tattoos, but they're also playing 16-year-olds, so I guess, and some of them, like Ola, she has quite a few tattoos, and same with Maeve. So I guess I watched that kind of laughing, like, so they must have turned 16 and then very quickly got quite a few tattoos that are also clearly quite like sentimental things, but I guess that's just I don't know, a makeup and costume observation. And I can't go without mentioning the cinematography, because it is utterly fantastic throughout this series. It shows that Netflix also hold their work to a high standard. There is, I think, a list online of the only cameras that are allowed to be permitted for Netflix original series. It's very strict sort of controls in place to make sure that their work is of a very high quality. And you definitely see that throughout this series. Like, you know, even simple stuff like when Ola and Otis and Eric are just walking across a bridge, and they've literally put crane shots and things just to get really nice sweeping shots of them walking home from school. And it's like, I guess traditional British sort of sitcoms and are not of that sort of, they wouldn't do that. There's just not enough time or money to justify such, you know, such beautiful work. The same applies to music, which I hope to find on Spotify. I hope someone has made it, I'm sure they have, a playlist of the music that's used throughout, because again, Netflix with the big giant credit card of just like licensing just all of these songs regardless of the cost, and it pays off, because you end up with what I guess starts as like, it's like a comedy, but then it's a drama, then it's like coming of age, and it's like, it just becomes this really sort of sweet, nice series. The whole thing just kind of grows into a journey. I've thought about this, and I think my favourite character has got to be Mr. Hendricks, the music teacher. I think he's fantastic, and he's got some really great moments, and this kind of reminds me of those teachers that love what they do, they love the subject, and it's like when they're passionate about something, it kind of passes on to others. And like, he's terrible as well, like sort of swearing and stuff behind the scenes of the play performance, but it's cool. It's good that they covered his problems as well. It's like your teachers, when you go through school, students naturally just don't think that your teachers are, nobody's invincible, and people have their own problems. Yet I never went through school thinking, oh wow, you know, my teacher's probably really stressed out at the moment, and you know, it's not, students don't do that, but this is one of the things that the series covers well, is like everybody's human. With regards to the ending, because I see on YouTube a lot of sort of, you know, comments, people are really like kind of furious with Isaac because he deleted that voicemail that Otis sent to Maeve, where he's like confessing his love, and it's cool that people feel emotional like that, and I think, you know, obviously the character's a bit of a dick for deleting the message, but I didn't actually see that as like a cliffhanger. It just wasn't that much of a twist, like, okay, Otis has left this message and it's now been deleted, but they're probably going to see each other in like 2 days, so surely Otis is just going to be like, hey, Maeve, so have you checked your voicemail? And then Maeve will just check her voicemail and it's not there and say, oh no, what was it? And then I hope Otis just says, that's what's going to happen, isn't it? Otis is not going to do that. He's going to probably be nervous and say, oh, never mind. There you go, here's my prediction. Otis will chase Maeve up for the voicemail. She'll say, what was it? He'll be too nervous to admit what it was, and that'll be the start of season 3. And now he'll struggle throughout the 3rd season to actually say it all again. I don't know, that's my prediction. One thing my family and I also agreed on when we watched it was like characters like Ola and Rahim, like they didn't do anything wrong and they kind of just got screwed over quite a bit. But I guess that's also just the way things are sometimes in life. Not trying to sound deep or depressing there. I just thought I guess not. You can't have every character just be happy. It doesn't work like that. But I'm also sure that they will go on to be fine, and the events from Series 2 have not killed them and won't kill them. In fact, yeah, thinking about Season 3 and what could be in store for us as viewers, not to be too dramatic, is it's quite interesting because a lot of the characters have kind of had their arcs or their sort of personal, realizations throughout the first 2 series. You know, Jackson has learned about his self-harm and communicating with his mum, who's being a bit naggy and stuff. And I guess the 3rd series will just give the writers more of a chance to explore issues which just don't get very much screen time at the moment in the traditional world of media. And I really hope that I don't edit out what I'm about to say, because I'm scared that people in the comments will hate me for saying it, or just call me a weirdo for thinking this. Maybe like a lot of the series is viewed from the perspective of Otis. It's like we are in Otis's head, seeing the world from his point of view. Like all the extreme sex, all the extreme, bullying in relationships, and like just growing up, it's like, whoa, there's so much going on, and it's daunting him, and that's why he's quite nervous. That's why he's quite anxious. And in many ways scared to act, because he just doesn't want to do the wrong thing. And that's where you see all the bullying being extreme, all the sex being extreme, all of the relationships being complicated and hard to trace, and the nervousness of adult life and all of that comes with it. That's why he kind of shuts down a lot. That's why he's kind of nervous and too afraid to kind of make moves and do things, because he's probably scared of rejection. He's scared of things going wrong because he's seeing it go wrong and doesn't want to be not liked or do the wrong thing. My only evidence to support this is the fact that Otis's dad is not there for him. And so despite having friends and being very good at talking to people in the moment, deep down he's quite isolated. He's like the loneliest character out of all of them. I don't know, I guess the writing reflects that. And that's why this series is so extreme, because the world's a scary place. Some moments are a little bit too extreme for reality. For example, when Adam puts that dog poo on Eric's dad's car, it's quite, it's not just a bag of dog poo. He's gone and found 60 bags of poo and put them on the car. You have to really hate someone to do that much. And why would you do 60 bags? What's the difference between 60 and 20? It's still awful. And it's just weird for him, because he's got to go around and where do you find 60 bags of dog poo? Another example is when the girls are all chilling at Amy's house, and then the doorbell rings, and Ruby's like, oh, it's the pizza man. And Amy's like, what, you ordered pizza? And they're like, yeah, we found your mum's credit card. Bullies are bullies, but people don't do that. People don't, I don't know. Do you see where I'm coming from? That's just a bit sort of too much. But again, I guess that's what the writers are trying to show, is that bullying does go too far. Or alternatively, they're reminding, older viewers how extreme bullying is, especially in the eyes of the 16-year-old. I've just realised that the windows in my car are starting to steam up because I've been here for so long, and I really hope that my neighbours don't think that I'm up to no good and calling the police. So I should probably finish this video. I'm excited for Season 3. I can't off the top of my head predict anything, but I suppose that's what's good. And even though I can't predict anything, I'm still excited to finally see it. At the moment, I don't have any subscribers or anyone actually watching these videos, but if someone does watch the video, please feel free to comment with your thoughts and whether you agree or disagree with me. And there's probably a million things that I've not observed or not mentioned in this video, but this was just me blurting out some thoughts having watched it. Congratulations to the cast. Who the fuck am I to say congratulations to the cast? Anyway, congratulations to the writers first and foremost. The directors, the cast, everyone who made that movie, the people behind the scenes. It was fresh, it was fun, it was cool, and it was important. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.